So I'm looking at these scraps and just thinking how I want to use them. And I'm thinking, I think I can make some nice keychains out of all of them. These are the insides of zipper cutouts. So it came off of this piece. I'll put a zipper here. And I'm thinking for them, all I have to do is finish the edges up nice, fold them over. Probably, I was thinking about stitching, but honestly, I could probably just drop a rivet right there. That'll make a nice keychain, put someone's name there. And on this one, I think I'll do is I'll probably cut out, probably this way. I'll fold it down and I'll take out these corners. I'll probably cut this off too so that it's square. And I'll take off the corners so that it's nice and rounded. And then I'll use my stamp and just press in some hot foil there. And I think that'll look nice. I might even start giving those away because that'll have my logo on it. Put those in the packages or something. So I'm going to make one of these first. First, I'm just going to take off, just bevel the edges, round them out nice. I don't think, now I could stitch these, or I don't trust glue, but I could stitch or rivet them and keep them kind of permanently fixed together like that. And then I could finish this as one edge and that would look nice. But I think in this case, I'm actually just going to put a single rivet right here. That'll hold the key ring on. And I'll just let these stay open. So since they'll be open, I think that'll, well, we'll see what it looks like. I think it might look neat, but since they're going to be open, I'm going to finish these separately. So I'm just going to open this up and finish one edge all the way around. Okay, now this one. Now I think I'll apply some edge paint. I don't think I'll slick it down. I think I'll slick it down after I paint it. And truly, if I was doing this out of a different leather, it might be interesting to experiment with different colors of edge paint here. Like if it was black leather, maybe some blue or red paint could look really neat. Perhaps I could have creased the edges. Maybe I still can. What do you think? Should a crease run along that? If I do a crease, it would have to be a very, very close to the edge there, I think. Because if it comes in too far, any lettering would sit right on top of it. So I think I'll opt not to crease it this time, but I might try a crease on the next one, just see what that looks like. It would probably add a nice little detail. Probably look neat. Yeah, I'm almost convincing myself it needs a crease, actually. Maybe I'll revisit that once the paint's dry. Should have done it first, though. If you're going to do a crease, do it first before you paint, because before you bevel, in fact, because that makes the tool rock. You have to be very careful if you're creasing it after you bevel. Otherwise, you'll get wavy lines and stuff. Okay, so now I'll just burnish with beeswax. I could use, token. Well, I guess tokenol is not a thing anymore, but I could use something else. But I find that actually beeswax is pretty good. Pretty good. Takes some practice, though. At least for me, beeswax did not just work. It took some practice. Okay. Give this a slick. I usually hold it like this. Yeah, that's starting to look nice already. Go around those corners. The hardest part always for me And they look comes out looking kind of flat, kind of matte. See if I can catch the light. But you just rub it lightly with your finger, and that shines right up. I love it. I think it's the oils in my finger. Must make a big effect. Must have a big effect. Oh gosh, yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Okay, almost done. So now I'm just gonna fold it over on itself. Decide where the rivet needs to be. Okay, so like an idiot, I got through the whole project and realized I hadn't hit record. So I got the other one to the same state as the first one was in when I stopped recording. And now we're just going to finish it. Now I have decided to go ahead and put those crease lines in. So I'm going to do that next. You know, I did bevel and round and finish these edges. I forgot to wax it. I'll do that. But I did round them, and that's just because I had rounded the first one, so I wanted to kind of keep it consistent. But I still think it's better to put the crease in before you round the edges. It makes it much more difficult, and I don't know how this is going to come out. So we'll see. Okay, so now this is in exactly the state as the first one was in. Go ahead and crease it. You'll notice I rotate the piece and not the crease. It rhymes. But you don't want, not that you don't want to, you can, but it's much easier if you rotate the piece underneath it as to rotating the tool. Your wrist only has so much flexibility, but it's much easier to rotate the actual item with your fingertips. Okay, that's pretty much it. Oh no, it's always in the last bit that I mess up. Can I save it? It's not bad. It's not too bad. And it's not bad at all. All right. So there's a crease. I don't know if it shows, but it adds a nice effect. Okay, so with that done, it's time to talk rivets. Now, there's so many options for rivets. In this case, I was thinking about, I have brass rivets, I have copper rivets, I have these nickel plated button, easy snap things. I don't remember what they call them. And I've got the same in like this gunmetal gray. Now, I generally will prefer these traditional rivets because once they're on, they're never coming off. They're there forever. Alternatively, these ones, they tend to be less reliable. They tend to, sometimes they can kind of pop off, especially when you first set them. You always got to double check and make sure that they really took. Sometimes they'll fall apart. So these are definitely the more reliable ones. However, first of all, this copper one, I don't think I have a smaller one, and it's far too large. Can't use it. I think it would look nice though. It'd look okay. The brass one, it almost fits. Now, it doesn't really fit as well with our crease, but it basically fits. And it would look nice. It would look particularly nice against black leather, I think, personally. I think this time I'm actually going to go with these gunmetal ones, and I actually have a domed top for it. It'll only be domed on one side because the other side's flat, and I don't have a domed post, but I do have a domed cap. So, you know what? It'll look nice on both sides. Should be all right. I will say, I think that the gunmetal finish will rub off over time, and it'll reveal a nickel finish underneath. So, luckily, in this case, I think both should look pretty good. So as it rubs off, it'll look worn, but it'll hopefully still look nice. Now we have to decide where to put the hole. I'm gonna get the ring, which is rather large. I don't have a smaller ring, but oh well, whatever. And just kind of cinch up on that and find where it wants to come together. The rivet edge wants to touch that spot. So I can feel it's right about here. put that rivet just right there, and that's where it wants to go. You can see it left kind of a mark. It's very faint. That's the idea. I want it faint. I'm going to put a little bit deeper of an impression, still faint, right in the middle. That's it. So that's where I'm going to put it. And yes, I did move it just a hair. That'll be okay. Now, let's get real precise. The overall width of this piece is 7/16. So half of 7/16 is 7/32. I'm going to come right up to my mark, 7/32. So I was off just a little bit, so I'm glad I did this. There. Now I have a hole, or a mark, on 7/32. Now, when I get my punch, I'm going to center it perfectly around that mark so that I have a little target, a bullseye. Not quite centered. I'm going to move it just a hair to the right. A literal hair, it's not very much. Maybe overthinking this, but I like precision. That indeed was too far. That's still not perfect, but I think it's good enough. What I would normally never do is flip this over and try to punch through both layers at the same time. Why? Because if this hole's exposed, it's going to have a totally different look, and indeed a less refined look on the backside. So so if I wanted to have these holes exposed, I would just map out on this side and do the same thing, and that would be perfect. But in this case, I don't care, because the holes are going to be covered up by the caps of the rivets. You can check that if you're not sure by laying the rivet over it. Does it cover it? Yes, it does. So there you go. So since it's going to be covered, I don't actually care about the aesthetic. Not as much. I care, but only because I'm a little OCD on that. So I'm going to just lay this down, line up those ends, lay it flat as I can, as much as the leather will let me. Pinch those ends and give it a whack. So if this was a billet on a belt or something, that's got a nice round, almost burnished look. Sometimes it does burnish. Actually, it did burnish just slightly there. The reverse side, see how flat and uninteresting that is? If you do that, you can then come back at it from the opposite direction and it'll improve it. But it won't be great, and there's a good chance you can be off just a little bit and then you end up with an oblong, which is, you can ruin your piece. So I would always recommend doing from the front on both sides, unless you're positive that it's not going to matter. And in our case, I'm positive it's not going to matter. Loop our ring on. Slide our rivets through, put our cap on, lay that flat. As if I use the proper anvil, okay, on a normal piece, that will retain, for the most part, this slight taper on the edges, which is nice. It looks nice. However, using this anvil, I'm also very likely, because I'm going to hit it pretty hard, and honestly, that rivet post is a little longer than it needs to be. I could maybe cut it shorter. Anyways, what's going to happen is that the edges of this anvil are going to dig into the leather and they're going to mark it. So rather than risk marking the leather, I'd rather have a flat rivet cap. That's not so bad. I will use the proper setter and give it a good whack. Now, because our post is a little longer than it really needs to be, there's a pretty decent chance that this can shift and it won't be perfectly parallel. That's something to consider, whether you care about it or not. The irony here is I spent so much time lining up those holes, you'd think I'd care a little more. But in fact, I don't. So I'm just going to roll with it. The post stayed fairly straight. And that's it. I did mar the back of it just a little bit. That's too bad. Give it a tug, make sure it's not going anywhere, because like I said, these can be unreliable. But it seems like it's set pretty well, and that's done. So the only thing left to do now is, if somebody wanted, I could flip this back, put it on an anvil, and I could engrave their name or initials into it or something. I could do that on both sides because it's split down the middle. If this was stitched together, then marking it on one side could leave artifacts on the back, and marking it on both sides would be difficult. So that's something you'd want to do before you assemble it. But with it split like this, I kind of like that aesthetic too. I think it looks neat. I like that. Not bad. Next, I'm going to look at using this piece to make a different style of probably keychain, key fob type deal. We'll see if it works.